I'm getting my cue from the back of the room. So good evening. I'm Beth Needle. I'm the Executive Director of the Lafayette Library and Learning Center Foundation. And on behalf of the library and the foundation, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our penultimate. I can write it, I just can't pronounce it, I guess. Distinguished Speaker Series event for this, our 10th anniversary year. And we're deeply grateful to authors like Jennifer, and to community leaders like Karen Mulvaney, and to you for your support in coming here. The lights are going up and down, right? For coming here this evening and supporting the library and literature. So tonight we're also pleased to have Orinda Books, our local independent bookseller, selling books of Jennifer's. And if you'd like to ask Jennifer a question, we have these lovely little green forms that we're just going to ask you to fill out and pass to Sarah or myself. And then one more thing, we also ask you to silence your phones. And now, in the words of Jennifer, stop for a moment and say, today I feel good. Right now, I feel good. My life is amazing, and I am happy right now in this moment. There is no missing part of me. There is nothing missing. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Jennifer and Karen.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me? Wow.
Can you hear me coughing?
Well, thank you, Beth, and welcome everyone. When I'm here in the library, I always like to say out loud how grateful I am for it. Together, the residents of our town built this magnificent place. It's a house of stories where the past and present and future are sacred notions and preserved for all. This place at one time was just an idea. For many, it is and was a deep prayer made real. A safe place where everyone is welcome and information is accessible and free. Thank you for showing up, for being interested, for participating, for being here, listening and connecting fiercely. So let the night begin. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I can't, so as long as you can.
Did anyone know
I feel like
that
the
about
thing's
Jen?
really at my eye, but okay.
Wow, I can hear you though.
Okay.
Yeah. It's exciting and kind of wondrous that you're here, actually. And I say that because of the unexpected situations which we all find ourselves either saying a loud yes or perhaps a strong no, but that we did not plan or foresee. Take, for example, you just flew from Minnesota from giving a talk at the Mayo Clinic. I mean, did you know you were going to be doing that? Not so much.
Did I what?
You didn't know you were going to be doing that years ago.
No, I didn't. Also, I read lips, so I'll probably be leaning in a lot.
So then you got to LA, you drove up here just today with your husband and your son. And because you lost your license, you did this without proof of being you. That was pretty amazing. Talk about unexpected, but also great. For a bit of context, I wanted to explain how Jen and I came to be friends before we even actually met. And it is that reason that you're here today, besides the nice people in Rochester who let you fly. Like so many of us, I read something you wrote. It was maybe 5 years ago. I think it was on manifestation, which I loved and I still do. Your unflinching, rare openness was an instant connection for me. The strung together words that at once make people feel a profound familiar knowing, a belonging, the feeling of not being alone. It had happened that you broke your foot around that time, yet you were immersed in retreats and workshops and lots of action. We began writing to each other, and it sounded like you were in a bit of a free fall to me, and that connection we forged then led us to write now. It was interesting. I'm a mother, and it was like the mother in me came out a little bit for you, and the I got you sort of frame. I can think of so many elements about you that have been described as simply being human, but these are the elements that are fascinating. They're curious, but also familiar. The ordinary becomes the extraordinary. And we make magic when we stop to actually see, or even just truly be with each other as we actually are. We so easily see these things in you, but often not so easily in ourselves. So I'd love to start by having you talk a little bit really about your early life as a girl growing up. What were you really like as a little girl? And what are your memories about growing up?
I was really like the same exact person I am now, because when I was born, I was already 40. I really was.
Old soul.
I'm not kidding, and everyone treated me that way. I know, I was very, very serious, and I think I do think I was depressed from the time I was born, and then I was very, very serious. I used to only like to hang around the parents and not the kids. So I grew up in New Jersey, and there's basements, and the kids would all go down the basement, and I would sit with the parents. And I was always really serious and being told to smile, which is really hilarious because I don't know, about 5 years ago, actually, a magazine did a piece on me in England and called me a happiness coach. And boy, did I have a chuckle as I swallowed my antidepressant. I mean, I really, really did, actually, the irony of it. But so I was very, very serious. I walked around. I'd walk in a room, and I'd say, I was like 6, and I'd say, I know how to spell anti-disestablishmentarianism, and I'd spell it. Now I'm a terrible speller. But I was very serious, and I loved to read. And I don't know, it's interesting because now there's a lot of me that feels very childlike, and I feel like a lot of that is making up for the years that I was a kid that never really felt that way. But I was very similar than I am now, minus gray hair.
I can't see
Dyed
gray.
hair.
I'm actually the one with gray hair. Was there a time back then that you felt writing was or would be a lifeboat? Were you writing as a young girl?
Yeah, I started writing when I was really little. I mean, from the first time I could read, I started writing. And I wrote about this in the book, but the first book I ever read, swear to God, was Judy Blume Forever, which at the time, when I was, I guess, 7 and read it, it was like soft porn, it felt like. I started writing stories, and everyone, told me I was going to be a writer, and then my dad died, and I got very resentful of, especially in high school, of people telling me who I was.
Interesting. And that comes up for you now.
It does. I can't stand when anyone's like, you seem... Nope, but everyone said, you're going to be a writer, and I was out to prove them wrong. And then when I went to NYU, I discovered poetry, which is still my first love. But I stopped writing for a really long time. I don't know if I think part of it was trying to punish myself and the world, not like anyone, I'll show you, I'm never going to write again.
It's interesting, the fascination with poetry or the kinship with that, because I feel in your writing, it's so apparent that you have that background, that love, that lyricism throughout your book, throughout all the writing that I've read of yours. There's a lyricism and a rhythm and a comparison of things that just set you apart, your voice on the page and the way you see and
Thank you.
put words out there. So I'm not surprised that poetry was such a love for you, because it
still
loves
is.
you.
It still
Yeah.
is. But now through, especially through the help of some of my mentor, beloved friends like Lydia, who wrote the foreword to my book, I've learned that, and a big part of my book is the idea that things don't have to be just one thing. So I've decided, like, well, maybe I don't write poems anymore, but I could still infuse that in my writing and make it lyrical and cross genres and make things a hybrid and
Which
do
you
whatever I
do.
want.
Yeah, which you do.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're succeeding big time at that. And speaking of Lydia, wasn't it she that said the other side of voice is listening? The other side of voice is listening in the introduction. So let's talk a little bit about radical listening, and what does that mean for you, and how does one do it? And how do you do it? What does that mean?
Well, for me, listening is really active because I have to. Like, even now, I'm struggling to hear you, which is weird because you have a mic on, but that actually doesn't help. It's all for me about the lips. But it's physical. I have to lean in and work hard and concentrate and give everything I have to that act. But aside from that, what I've really discovered is fierce listening is listening without the agenda of, I'm going to fix this, I'm waiting for my turn to talk, what do I look like, all the other things. And that came from hearing loss, and then just also the workshops that I do, where I was in rooms with people that were going through the deepest tragedies and grief and various things, and I just began to learn and listen in whole body ways, But the irony is that did come from my hearing loss. So I'm not one to say, well, if, for example, when I broke my foot, I posted on Facebook. I was really depressed. I was off my medication at the time. And were you there at the retreat? Okay, I broke my foot, and I was at the emergency room, and I posted, and I remember people were like, this is a gift.
Oh,
this
God.
is your yoga. And I just thought that was such a crock of shit. And so now, years later, I could see gifts that came from it, but it's not like, I broke my foot and right away, it's like, thank you. So I don't feel that way about my hearing loss. I'm not like, well, it happened for a reason. I've been able to, from that, develop skills and gifts and find beauty in it, but I don't think it happened, for that reason. But because of it, I really have learned, I've had to. It's been survival.
So I think that's a really interesting thing that everybody struggles with, the idea that things happen for a reason. And there's so many examples, I think, in your book where you talk about that, you show that isn't true.
Oh, yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty adamant in my, I'm very adamant in my belief that I don't believe in that. Yeah, my nephew, I remember when he got diagnosed with this really rare fatal genetic disorder. And then my friend's baby was diagnosed with Tay-Sachs. He ended up passing away. It's like, it didn't happen for a reason. My friend or my sister didn't manifest that from something they did, or, and too many things happened. So although, I listened to all these spiritual people, and like Wayne Dyer, who was my great teacher, there was things they said that I love and a few didn't agree with, and I think that's what we do anyway, with anyone, with any writer, with any religious figure, with any teacher. You find what works, you find what doesn't, you take the rest and do what you will. I think that there sometimes can be beauty to be found in really tragic, hard things and art and whatnot. And hopefully you find ways to move on. But I just don't believe that things happen for a preordained reason. And that's my personal belief. So if anyone, disagrees with that for their religious background or whatever, that's what's beautiful about being human. You get to.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm fascinated by your ability and tolerance to navigate a highly changing environment.
Highly changing?
Yeah,
Oh, that's hilarious.
which you write about a lot. And how is it that you are so comfortable with the chaos? Because in your early life, it seemed like you were describing unplanned, unscheduled, bottoms falling out, things happening, lack of control. And yet it seems like there's this big arc where here you are and your mom is the planner and the scheduler. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's funny. I've never heard anyone. What was it you said that something? What was the thing you said about change? My biggest fear, one of them,
Highly changing.
What was it?
Highly changing environment.
My biggest fear that I'm really open about, or one of them, is change. I really struggle with that, and I understand where that comes from. Losing my dad so traumatically at 8 in the way that it happened. I want everything to stay the same. I want to guarantee you're never going to leave. I stay in the same job. I worked at the newsroom. One of my friends here, I met there for 14 years. It's a restaurant in Hollywood. I've lived in my apartment almost 20 years now. I wait until you kick me out, and I wait until I'm deaf before I get hearing aid. I cannot deal with change. And so the irony now that you said that to me was just kind of mind-blowing. Because the truth is, it's all we really have. And the other truth is that it's taken me into my 40s to realize, or maybe I realized it earlier, but we're not in control of anything. I realized that at 8 when my dad died. But I've stopped trying to even create the illusion. That doesn't mean that habits are really hard to break. So I am still in that apartment, and I really struggle with change. Even when I get my hair cut, I have to, I'm like, give me a Xanax. It's like please look back at photos. I always have this really, it's a thing. I'm like, keep it the same, and change scares me.
So then how are you navigating this incredible explosion of your life where, your book was published in June, is that right? Right, this came out in June?
Yeah, oh, you said Aga June?
This was published in June. And
I thought she said Aga June, which is Persian for granddad, which is what I had in my book. I'm going to write a book called Things I Hear and Miss Here, and Miss will be in. It was published in June.
So, and since then, you've had a zillion balls in the
I
air.
have. It's actually been hard. This last little while, I've been in a sort of depression and dark space, which might seem weird because, on paper, everything is going my way and swimmingly, and I'm so successful, and it's sort of inexplicable. But I do think a lot of it is that, and the lack of control and the utter chaos, and there's no rhythm, there's no consistency for the last 6 or 7 months. But also, these are all quote-unquote good changes. The changes that are harder, for example, if I were to move, or things that are not as easy to navigate. But it's still a struggle. It's still a struggle. In my fantasy brain, nothing would ever change.
I find that fascinating because, I don't know, I feel like you're a master at being able to juggle a lot.
I am, and I also am a master of living in chaos, so I still do. And in fact, I don't write anything down. Everyone's like, how do you even remember? I'm like, a lot of times I don't. I literally won't show up, and someone's like, where are you? I would love to be a little more the other way.
Okay, I'm so glad you showed up today, though.
I'm really glad to.
Just saying. So, all right, a lot of times you talk about being put in a box.
See, again, I thought she said being pregnant in a box. I do?
Oh, my God.
Being put in a box, okay.
Being put in a box.
Uh-huh.
And not just being one thing.
Yes.
But many things all at once. And I'm curious whether no matter how hard we might all try not to be boxed in, that it's really nearly impossible, because isn't language how we communicate? Aren't each word is like a tiny box, right? It's a container to let you know something that we're communicating about.
That's a really good point, and yes. So
it's
I
just
wonder.
interesting to me.
I suppose then it's more for our own selves, of how we think of ourselves
Yeah, I think
and our
maybe.
self-worth. And so yeah, when someone on an airplane says, "What do you do?" It's taken a long time, and now I'm a writer. But before I had a book in the world, I go, well, I like in this whole, and the
so
truth is, I could say anything. I say I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a waitress, whatever, because none of it really matters.
Yeah.
But I think it's more for our own knowing of who we are, that this just is so minimizing. I'm just a waitress. I'm just a yoga teacher. I'm just a wife. I'm just a mom. I'm just a librarian, whatever it may be.
Right. And plus, it's sort of a lack of control if somebody tells you what you are. Right?
Absolutely.
It's almost like, well, wait a minute. You don't get to decide that, right? About somebody else telling you this
No,
or that or the
absolutely.
other thing. So it's interesting.
Well, yeah, and I know I always have gotten very, like, I bristle when someone says, "This is Jen, she's a yoga teacher." And I'm like, I teach an hour a week these days. And no matter what, I can't escape that. But then, I don't know, lately there's just this sort of, it doesn't matter. Call me what you want. It doesn't matter.
I'm going to call you Jen.
Perfect.
So, okay, what about talking about what you bring up in your book a lot are the invisibility of whether it's an ability or a disability, whatever it is. When people assume things, much like assuming you're just a this or just a that, when you can't hear, or if you can't walk well, or whatever it is, you can't see well. Can you talk about that, like what that's been for you? And you write a lot about it in your book, and you talk about it a lot in your workshops, how that manifests for you.
It's funny, somebody the other day made a meme of something I said. I didn't remember saying it, but I was like, I like it, so I reshared it. But it said something like, invisible disability, something to be aware of, compassion, something to always have. I don't remember when I said it, but I did. And that's the thing, is that as my hearing has gotten progressively worse, and it's harder to navigate because I don't present as a person who was born deaf. My speech, as far as I know, doesn't sound, although sometimes people go, "Oh, that's why your voice is like that." And I don't really know what they mean. But my hair is stuck. But as it's gotten worse, and I see how many assumptions people make, how irritated someone will get that doesn't know I'm hard of hearing, that just thinks I'm checked out or whatever it may be. Sometimes, depending on the mood I'm in, yes, I have a moment where I get frustrated, I feel sorry for myself, but most of the time, all it does is make me go, okay, where am I doing this? Where can I be more compassionate and not make up a story about someone, and look someone in the eye and treat everyone that they're human, because they are, without any story being made up. I remember years ago, I did a workshop in New York, and this guy, it's usually predominantly women, it's self-selecting, but the work I do is about vulnerability and what have you, and so it generally ends up being women. And a guy came in, and he had these like dark sunglasses on, and the whole time I was like, oh God, this guy he thinks he's so cool with his sunglasses, and he hates me, and I made up a whole story. We're really good friends now. But, of course, turns out he's blind in the way that I'm deaf, and he, and we had a great chat about this and a great connection, but he said, he gave a talk similar to a TED Talk, but one thing he said, you gotta take your head out of your ass, you're gonna have smelly hair. Howie. But so I made a story about him immediately, and I thought, I can't believe me of all people I'm doing this. And that was another really good reminder. It's like, you don't know. You don't know.
It's very true.
It is, and
Very.
it's not always easy, especially if you're tired or run down or stressed out, to be compassionate and to go, well, maybe this person is blind and not just an a-hole, like.
It's funny, I had a total knee replacement about 12 years ago, and I was in a grocery line. I was recovering, and I was still very tender and whatnot, and a person behind me kept pushing their basket into me, like their cart. And it happened, once, twice, 3 times. And I was getting nervous because I just didn't really have the balance, but she didn't know that. And I turned around and I said, I'm sorry, I've just had surgery and your cart keeps pushing into me. And would you just step back a little bit because I'm a little nervous? She said, well, you could be wearing a sign then.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, I had so many signs. I had like really very bad signs in my head about F you.
That's actually hilarious.
I was like, I still remember it. It's 12 years later.
I can't believe you didn't say back to her, you should be wearing one.
Serious.
It says I'm an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. That was the sign I wanted to wear on my back. You should,
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's something, what happens out there in the world. Okay, so mind tattoos.
Yes.
Mind tattoos. It reminds me a little bit about what we tell ourselves and how does that happen? What
I looked at my skin tattoo as she said that.
Mm-hmm. I got you. So you talk about that in your book, the mind tattoos.
The mind tattoo. It's interesting because I thought about it actually this morning. So mind tattoo, mantra, whatever you want to call it, it's, we have however many thousands of thoughts every day, and a good big old majority of them are the same thoughts on repeat. And when I realized that, I think I was still waitressing, I got really depressed because I thought, oh God, the thoughts that are on repeat in my head are, I'm a bad person, I'm fat, I'm a loser, I'm just a college dropout, etc. And so I thought, wait a minute, what if I choose a different mantra? At the time I was more woo. Choose a different mantra. And I preferred to think of it like something that opens me up rather than shuts me down. I personally don't say negative and positive. My own vernacular works better for me to think about something that opens me up. So I just thought, well, what if all right, I am here. I am in my body. Choosing things that ground me and open me up. So this morning, I just got back from Minnesota yesterday. I was at Mayo Clinic, and I teach yoga 2 hours a week. So 7 in the morning, going to teach my class, and I was yawning. I was having a yawning attack, if anyone's ever had one, where you can't stop. And I'd gone to bed last night at 8. And so I was literally chanting, waiting for the elevator, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Why am I so tired? And it must have said, what is wrong with me 7 times in 30 seconds. And I thought, what a mind tattoo that is. So I just decided before I got in the elevator, I'm going to shift it. And I shifted to, I'm enough. And I'm awake. And I just kept saying that all day. Mind tattoo is the thing that you have on repeat. And it's just a matter of noticing what it is and deciding is like, do I want to choose that to keep on repeat, basically.
I love that.
It's not always easy, which is why I'm keen on who you're spending your time with, people that sort of remind you who you really are, so they can help you along the way.
And is that what you call the inner asshole too?
Yeah, your inner, your IA is the one that says there's something wrong with you. You can't remember anything. You don't write anything down. You lost your license as usual. You haven't exercised in a month. You ate a whole bag of salt and vinegar chips in the drive up to Lafayette. What is wrong with you?
Yum.
You're the worst. That's your
Yeah.
inner asshole. Yours might say different things because you didn't have a bag of salt and vinegar chips today, but
So how has this book been for you? Like this whole arc of, okay, you were a little girl in Philly, right? And then you lived in New Jersey.
Philadelphia born, and then we moved over to the bridge, which is like
Yeah, 2 seconds, right? Jump
5
over.
minutes, literally, yeah.
And then you got out to California.
Yeah. And then back to New Jersey.
Yeah, and then your mom was like moving, right? And then you were at the newsroom
Yeah,
for 13 years?
13.5.
So I found it fascinating. I heard on an interview with you that the day that your dad died,
Yeah.
you were going to a place called the newsroom.
Yeah, so across the street, we lived in this little town called Pennsauken, which is right over the bridge from Philly. It's basically, you know how people in northern New Jersey say they're from New York? So if you live there, you live in Philly, right? I mean, it's literally like from the glasses to the glass. So there was this little store, you know, as big as this table, and there was a Pac-Man machine and another machine. There was a deli. You could buy cigarettes and lottery tickets. And my dad, you know, he'd send me across the street and he'd say, get a pound of American cheese, thinly sliced, hard pack of Cools, and Tasty Cakes.
And how old were you? Like they were
6,
selling cigarettes
7,
to you.
8.
Oh my God.
So I know it's so funny to think now. I mean, now it's so different. Everything you can. I mean, your kids can't even stay home by themselves. I don't know, at 14,
Ever.
right? You'll
Ever.
go to jail, or I don't know.
Ever.
But anyway, so he'd say, so the day my father died, and but the best part is they put it on my tab. Yeah, so they have like a tab, and we paid it, you know, what, a week or I don't know. So my dad said, go across the street and get me a pack of cigarettes. Go to the newsroom and go across the street. So the store was called Kirk's Newsroom, the newsroom. And all the years later, I ended up working at a restaurant called The Newsroom. I know, it's so bizarre.
I think that's really bizarre.
It is weird.
And then you stayed there. I think that's so
I stayed
interesting
there.
that you stayed there. I feel like it was like you were waiting for your dad a bit.
Yeah, it was wild. I stayed there at the newsroom. It's no longer there, but it was a riff on the all the food that's fit to eat, like all the news that's fit to print. And so there was a newsstand at the front and a juice
Over
bar.
by the Ivy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In its heyday, it was the
It was a big
place.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember because it was over by Cedar Sinai.
Yeah, and New Line Cinema was upstairs, and it was just the place. It was the place.
I think we're doing pretty well on time as far as question and answers, but do you want to talk a little bit about that concept of and rather than either or?
Oh, the and?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
I
love
think
that.
you're a
I just saw
big
my son for a
and.
minute, but he ran out. Yeah, the and goes like this. I take antidepressants and I lead workshops that help people feel more free and happier, and people call it inspirational. I am a great, if not the best listener someone's ever met, and I'm deaf. I sometimes experience deep sorrow and deep immense joy in the same day, you know. So the idea of and is that being human is not just one thing, you know. And it's the same thing as the Justa box. It's so easy to get caught up in, you know, with these people I deal with that are going through such grief. They have these moments where they'll just be laughing hysterically, the snot's coming out of their nose. In the middle of crying, and that's life, you know. It's never just one thing. And I think the more we talk about that and we embrace that, the more human we all become.
I agree. I think that a whole is a whole. You can't just
Absolutely.
have part of it. where it's
That's
not
why it
full.
was, I just, when I was at Mayo Clinic, which was probably, besides the workshop I did with Elizabeth Gilbert in October, the highlight of my career, working with all these palliative care doctors and nurse practitioners and social workers yesterday. It was and they're all crying, and it's like, these are doctors, more doctors have been coming to my workshop, and ER doctors, and to me, that's the end. It's the science and medical and the heart and the soul.
So say that again. At the Mayo Clinic, you were speaking. For some reason, I thought it was also to kids. No, it
Kids?
was. Yeah.
No.
It was
So
all adults.
a doctor, the head of palliative care, reached out to me, read my book, and flew me there. And the whole palliative care team, and she said that the most unique thing about them is they're a team, unlike any other part of Mayo Clinic. They're a team. So the doctors, the nurse practitioners, the chaplains, the social workers, I can't remember if there was one, but they're a team. So I love it because it was very much, I got you, and so I incorporated that in. And it's a really sacred thing what they're doing, but yeah, it was holy, and but it was really the and thing for me, because these are like science and hospital and medical, and then you're bringing me in. That's talking about vulnerability and being human and finding the beauty in people in severe chronic pain, dying sometimes.
And so, were you able to have conversation back and forth with them during your presentation? How did
Oh,
that
absolutely.
work?
It's the only way I do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what they wanted, but that's what they got, and they asked me back, so yeah. They were like, do you have a PowerPoint before you come? I said, yeah, no. No.
So, what scares you?
What scares me?
Yeah.
Change.
Besides change,
Um,
or tell me what surprised you about yourself in this whole realm of, becoming not in a box, but being a writer, right? Being recognized as that now. Your own ideas of yourself.
I think, my dad died at 38. And I was always so scared of getting older for so many reasons. One being he died at 38 and I was 8. So naturally, in my brain, 38 was the age of death. And also because I was born 40 and my parents treated me like an adult, and my dad, before he died, was having an affair. And so I had so many complicated ideas in my head about like being pretty and young and how you get a man not to leave. And then I was pretending to trying to be an actress. And then so I have all these ideas about age and aging. And so the fact that I love myself so much in my 40s and how comfortable I am in my body and my skin is sort of surprising. I would have never thought that in my 20s. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I'm like, oh, come on. But yeah, that really is surprising to me, how much more comfortable I am, and how much better I like myself. That I have a child surprises me. I did not think I was going to have a kid. And he's here, if you don't believe me. I mean, somewhere. Like,
Is he,
I don't know.
I was going to say, is he in the crowd
Climbing.
yet?
He's probably like climbing a chandelier somewhere. This doesn't surprise me because in some way I knew this is what I'd always be doing. I didn't know in what capacity. But my favorite quote is, I heard Wayne Dyer speak it, but I believe it's Mark Twain, although God only knows. And it's not what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you think you know for sure that just ain't so. And that has been the defining quote of my life.
That's a good one.
It's the best one, I'd say. Because so many of us, it's like we think we know who we are, how life's going to go, the way the world works. It's like, you have no clue.
Yeah, clearly.
And the more we embrace that and go, you're right, I don't know, then the magic starts to happen because you allow it in rather than like have your arms crossed and go, I already know.
I totally agree. And so now that you are a mother of Charlie Mel. And he's what, 3?
He's 3.5.
3.5. Oh my God.
I know.
Growing up. How is that for you?
Oh, it's the best. It's the best thing I've ever done. Although I don't post that publicly, and I actually have never said that out loud.
You just did.
Because I was such an advocate for not having not having children, but being okay with not having children, and my best friend doesn't have a child, and so I'm very cautious about what I say, but it is. I won't lie about that. And I'm so glad every morning I wake up and I said, thank you for choosing me to be your mommy. Yeah, it's, I almost missed it. I really did. I really had to let go of what I thought I knew, and I wrote about this in the book, but I remember the last time I saw Wayne Dyer. So I loved Wayne Dyer. I was obsessed. And I stalked him pretty much, and I went and I saw him speak, and I, thousands of people, and I was in the front row, and by the time he died, we were friends. So stalking works. But the last time I saw him, he hugged me backstage. It was in Pasadena. It had to be, maybe it was 2014. 2014. Maybe it was even 2015. I don't remember. And he said, I can't remember, do you have a kid? And I said, no, and I don't think I will. I had an ectopic pregnancy, and I don't think I will. And they whispered to me, it's not up to you anyway. And I walked away, and I rolled my eyes, because I was like, he's so woo. I love him, but he's just so woo. But then when I got pregnant with Charlie, I kept thinking about him, and I was like, maybe Charlie did choose me. I didn't plan it. I will say that if I had to have, if I was so lucky with it just sort of happen by accident, really, if I had to do IVF or any of that, it wouldn't have happened. And so perhaps there's truth to what he said.
Yeah, he was great.
He was the best.
He was an amazing man.
I still think he's woo as anything, but he's the best.
So what about dare to be a dork? What is that, dare to be a dork?
Daring to be a dork is
about your workshops.
Yeah. Well, it's how I try to live my life, which is to say, caring less what people think. So I do these things in my workshop where I play Journey or something, Don't Stop Believing, and we all sing. And everyone does, right, Janelle? Right, Donna? Right? Everyone does. And there's no solos, and it's just this like group thing. And you could see after like 5 seconds, no one cares anymore what they sound like or what the person next to them sounds like. And it's just freedom. But the idea behind it is to really, the more comfortable I am in my skin, the more comfortable you are. And I find that wherever I go in the world. I asked the room the other day at Mayo Clinic, I said, how many of you, who in here doesn't care what anyone thinks? No one raised their hand. I can't raise my hand. I say, I want to care less. It's just the idea to be more free, just to be more free, to care less what someone else thinks. And I do believe that's what keeps us young, not Botox or any of the other stuff. It's really being free, finding the ability to just, let yourself be silly and free or sing out loud, and whatever that means or whatever it looks like, be vulnerable.
Yeah, I love that. I think giving each other permission, but I think you first have to find that inside.
I agree. I think it's true.
Yeah, and then that just spreads, like the good thing that it is.
Yeah, and this is the big one I forgot to say. Ready? It's fun.
Yeah, it's totally
just fun. Fun is totally underrated. It's fun. And you could see, like, for example, when I, with all the doctors, and they were all singing, and they were like, and so after it ends, I always say this. I go, you know what's so great about this? No booze was involved with the making of this dance party. Well, I'm like, maybe there was, but no. And everyone laughs, and it's true. It's like this, just so fun. Have more fun.
Yeah, it's so true. Childlike.
Yes, which is why, full circle, coming back to that idea of like when I was a kid, I was not like that. So,
But Charlie's like that, right?
Oh, yeah. Because
Total
I really embrace that at home, and
It's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How are we doing on time?
Do we have any? Cool.
Okay.
Can you
Take it
come
over.
closer so I can read your mouth? So I have a funny story. My friend who I got this tattoo with, actually, I have a scholarship fund called the Alexander Fund, and it's for a woman who's lost a child. And so a woman I gave the Alexander Fund to, we became friends, and I went to Nashville to do a reading, and we hung out, and I got you tattoos. And her one son, her living son, is 6, and before he met me, she said, Jen reads lips, and he was so confused. And she said, why are you so confused? And he said, does she have words on her lips?
It's
I
so
thought that was the
cute.
cutest thing I've
It's
ever heard
very
in my
cute.
life.
So I'm right over here. Is this good?
I think so.
Or I could
Yeah,
You
just
can come sit on my lap.
get on my lap.
Yeah, yeah.
or in a skirt. 'Cause
That's much better, yeah.
I don't want to block people.
There we go.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Okay. The first question is serious, and I have recently experienced a traumatic family loss that involved my twins, whom I adore. What is your advice on coping with grief?
Was it my twin?
Twins.
Twins.
My twins. Oh, my twin. My twins, plural.
Grief's a bitch. I wish I knew like who it was because I don't know where I'm looking. Okay. I've been looking at you a lot anyway, so grief's a bitch. And I'm sorry. Do what you need to do, which sounds like a cliche, but it's not. So like if some days you just want to stay in bed all day, as long as you're not doing that every day, all the time. People mean well when they give you platitudes and say those bullshit things, but do your best to stay away from that right now. I don't know, I have a really hard time with any of those kind of, and then find a community, which is why I love these retreats I do. So it's not that everyone on there is grieving. In some capacity, I'm sure everyone is, but there'll be like 5 people who've lost a child or a sibling or whatever it may be. And there's this group of people who hold you. So find those people that are gonna say, I got you, and hold you with whatever it is you need. Like some days you wanna punch and be an asshole, and some days you wanna stay in bed, and some days you wanna talk about them, but honor that. And I think the biggest thing is don't apologize to anyone for your grief or worry about making them uncomfortable, which is a thing I see a lot of people do. And grief is a wave. I'm sorry.
Did getting your book published and telling your truth relieve your depression symptoms?
No. Or do you want me to lie? No. Sometimes it made it worse. True story. There's so much stress and pressure around putting a book in the world, and man, so the answer to that is no. I'd say if it was a circumstantial depression, but mine isn't. So if you were just depressed because you've been writing for 20 years and no one's read your writing, and then you get your book published, that might, yes, then, but not for me.
Okay. How do you deal with people's perceptions of deafness as a disability?
Yeah. That's hard. What I find is most people are okay. I've gotten really conscious about people who are born deaf with a capital D because it's a whole other world. And so it's tricky because I didn't grow up in that world, and I don't sign. I want to learn it, but I didn't have any reason to learn it until pretty much now. Most people, when I tell them, when I say I read lips, they're pretty great. It's before they know the way I get treated that's hard. But I do also think people, it's tricky because if you don't present a certain way, because I enunciate really well and I speak really clearly. People are kind of confused. So, but just hang out with me for a little and you'll get firsthand experience how annoying it is, because I will ask you what every 3 seconds.
What is karaoke yoga?
It's exactly what it sounds like. So, when I first did it, I was starting to teach yoga, and I would have people sing in class, like I'd play Free Falling or Don't Stop Believing, and everyone, I live in Los Angeles, was very serious, took themselves very seriously in yoga. And so I'd say, sing, and people would start to sing, and it was this really joyous, light-hearted, fun thing. So one day I saw a sign for karaoke cycling, and I said, can we do that with yoga? And they said, sure. So we decided to, and before we even did it, Good Morning America reached out to me, and they said, we're going to put you on TV with Good Morning America with your karaoke yoga. But we've never done it. That's okay. So they came, and we had never done it, and it's a screen with the words and everyone singing all at once. So I don't do it so much anymore, but what I do now I call rock star yoga, where I play the songs, and I say, if you don't know the words, make them up. And that's almost more fun. But it's the idea of just singing out loud as a group.
You make me want to sing.
Go for it. You have a mic.
Oh, my God.
No, you've heard me. But I'll ask more questions.
Well, what?
I'll ask more questions.
Okay.
Sing them.
Most of us dwell in being imperfect. How do you move to becoming imperfectly perfect?
I have no idea.
That was mine.
That was yours? No, I mean, I'm going to answer truthfully. I have no idea, I think I made a commitment, very recently, especially with the publication of this book, and especially I just signed with a really big speaking agent, and some of the people that are, want me are like these billionaire people, and I thought, I'm going to be myself, utterly myself, no matter where I go, and that's my commitment. I'm not going to alter my personality to fit in with who I think is in the audience. Yes, if it's a bunch of kids, I'll drop less F-bombs. Hi, Charlie.
Speaking of
the
kids.
devil, right? But I do think one of the best ways is by listening to other people. Because you find people that you think are beautiful inside and out, and you talk to them, and you go, oh, they are thinking the same things. And then you talk to someone, and you start to go, oh, we're all thinking the same thing. So if we get out of our own head and really start listening to the person in front of us, it's a lot easier to accept our own imperfection. So perhaps the key really is just taking the focus off ourselves.
I have one more question, and then we'll have Charlie lead us in a song.
Yes, Charlie?
And this question is from Monica. When I move to LA, will you hang out with me more?
You're moving to LA? I just feel like I got proposed to.
That's a great last question. I love that.
That's funny. That really did feel like a proposal, or like Love Actually kind of movie, like, where's the ring? Yes, absolutely.
Charlie, do you want to come up and sing with Mommy?
Come on, Char.
Karaoke, baby.
Charlie, I'll count to 3.
Careful of the step. There you go.
Here. Say hi, everybody.
Do you want to talk into the microphone?
Just say,
no?
Oh, what about, tell them what you want for Christmas. I've never seen you be shy. Okay. This is Charlie.
Are we singing? We do a little song? What
how about Baby Shark?
Oh.
Baby.
Talk about a
Okay, what
mind
about Wheels on the
tattoo.
Bus? You start, and then we'll all
Baby
sing.
shark, shark, isn't it?
Wheels on the bus go round and round.
Round and round, round and round.
The wheels on the bus go round and round. All through the town. The wipers? The wipers in the bus.
Go shark,
Okay. Oh, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, I do want to say one. Oh, sorry. I do want to say one thing about a great passion of mine is supporting independent bookstores and libraries, obviously, which is why I came here. And thank you all for coming. Consider buying a book, even if you already have one, as a gift, because I live in Santa Monica and there's no bookstores anymore. And my fear is that they're going to go away. So the way that they cannot go away is if we support them. Even, I mean, usually when I'm in a bookstore, I say, even buy a piece of candy or anything. So understandably, if you don't have the cash or the money, but if you do, consider supporting Orinda Books, because they're important. Libraries, independent bookstores are really, they're everything. And Amazon kind of takes over. So thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to thank everybody for coming also, and thank you, Jennifer and Charlie, Mel, and Robert, who probably drove. I want to just read a passage that reminded me of you, and it's a Rumi passage. Be a lamp, or a lifeboat, or a ladder. Help someone else's soul heal. Walk out of your house like a shepherd. That reminds me of you, and I thank everybody for coming. Let's love each other more. Book signing, yes? Book signing and sales. Ready, set, go.
Jennifer will be signing books at the back of the room.
Hi.
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 Thanks for coming
Hi.
to Mommy.
Thanks for coming to Mommy.
You're really good at this. Do you want to sing a song now?
No, I want to keep them.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Oh my God, I love that. Thank you. That's amazing.
Hello.
Wow.
Hello, hello.
I feel like I've met you.
Hello.
Oh my gosh. That's really wild. Oh my God, that's crazy. Thank you, Charlie. Robin. Yes, I would love that. Hey, I know. You take it because mommy's doing something.
Hello, hello.
Weird.
Hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. 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 Hello.
Like a thing, but just, I think a lot of it is intuitive because of my hair.
Hello, hello.
I'm really excited to see you again and to meet you. Really good to yeah.
Hello.